E-voting. Voting via the internet, via your cell phone. Good or bad?
I think it's great. Technology is here.
Make it a lot faster and easier for people.
Yeah, get the vote out.
All right. How do we secure identity?
Fingerprint, picture ID.
Well, biggest challenges that we have essentially is security. The number one, as far as what everyone is saying, is government issued ID, which is positive identification. And so what if you were born without a birth certificate? What if you never had a government issue ID? How would we actually get an ID? Well, what if we don't? What if we can positively identify us via biometrics? Banks, ATMs in Japan, they already have installed it to where you put your hand down and they reach not only your finger and palm print, it also grabs your heart rate, pulse rate, as well as your skin temperature. And the second camera scans your facial structure and also your iris. And that allows you to access your money or keeps you from getting access to your money. Positive identification is not out of the question today. Biometrics. Let's define it. Realistically, what's being collected today via the cell phones is iris scan, eye flutter, the timing differences between
Respiration rates.
Facial structure.
Okay, body structure, your gait, your walk, when you type your keystroke, the timings between your keystroke, breathing
Voice
rate, voice tone. All right, so well, how do we keep people from getting scared by this? And do you guys think people will be scared by it? What do you think the public reaction will be?
I think they would be scared by this information, but a good way to help them realize that they're already familiar with it is through all the apps that they've already downloaded on their phone, whether it's like MyFitness or Nike Plus, which allows you to regulate and keep track of your heartbeat, your exercises, and your routine. Like they're already familiar with it, and then that's just a small example.
Out of what you found, are you scared by this or by the coming of biometrics?
No, I feel like it's actually something that's really exciting because for my generation, we're really big on making things quicker. It'll definitely make things faster. So I think it's this point of excitement, but also there's people that are very cautious and they're going to need like more reassurance of how the inability or ability for people to have access to, you know, your personal information.
This is an identity, so it's something that you naturally generate. But right now, it's an issue of what do you guys do? You think that people should accept this or not?
Well, yeah, like it's gonna be something that will make everyday life easier, and like it's gonna happen whether people like it or not. And there's always gonna be people that are scared of the change in technology and
xenophobia, anything new, right?
But I think like most people won't necessarily be scared so much as like
concerned
excited
about the privacy. We come to find out even more questions, such as some of the ones that we even stated. If indeed we can positively identify people, individuals, why are we not facilitating voting with our biometrics or voter registration? We can absolutely eliminate 100% voter fraud because we can positively 100% identify people. The measures that's in place are it's you're generating it. And GPS-wise, we know actually exactly where you are, whether you did cast that ballot or not. So the entire idea behind this documentary to begin with was that if indeed that is the case, that we can positively identify individuals, and also much like your fingerprint and your palm print and your DNA, the police can either acquit you or prosecute you. So in other words, they can either take away your freedom or give you freedom. So the question that we had was, why the hell are they allowing us to vote using this information? You see how difficult it was for you to register, and it's a pain in the butt, isn't it?
Yeah, DMV sometimes don't even, you register, but they don't
do
respond
anything
to you.
Yeah, you do it online. They don't do so. Why in the world isn't voting made easy? Because at the end of the day, voting is pretty serious business. So I have a question for you guys, and I want you guys to seriously answer as honestly as you can. No judgment, no nothing. It's just all about how you truly feel. Okay? Do you believe that the majority of people that you know are smarter or stupider than you?
I think they're stupider.
I think a lot of my friends are dumb, and I feel I'm smarter than them, actually.
So, according to what we have already asked, well, we already polled people, The other 1% say that the majority of people are smarter than them. At which point, then, we should request that they return to their regularly scheduled programming. And for the rest, we will ask them, if that's the case, then have you considered that you placed decision powers to your immediate future into the hands of a bunch of people that are stupider than you? So if the majority of people is already deemed stupider than you, we have a bunch of very stupid opinions.
We have stupid laws.
Oh,
We kind of have that right now, don't we?
Yeah.
Did you know that in Bakersfield, California, you can't have sex with the devil? Unless you have a condom. If you have a condom, you can stick it anywhere you want in the devil. That is a law. Why are you looking at me like I'm crazy? I didn't write it. I didn't propose it. I didn't vote on it. I would have loved to have voted on it, but I did not. So how do we get around the problem? That if the majority of people have already been measured as stupider than you.
You gotta educate the majority so that they have informed opinions and make informed votes. Well, that's democracy. You're gonna have a lot of stupid people out there, and they get their say. And
So that's what the majority of them is going to say, that this is the way things are. Is that right?
It's just how the system is set up.
Okay. So what is the system? Beyond just the presidential elections, we have the congressional elections. I mean, there's 3 branches of government. You know what they are?
executive, judicial.
Legislative.
What's in legislative? House of Representatives and Senate.
Don't we vote for House of Representatives and Congress?
Hmm?
Don't we vote for Congress? And
Correct, but when was the last time that you did or you heard of anyone have? Because these are the people that can stop the United States president on whatever decisions he or she makes. Executive branch is president and vice president. We get to choose them. We get to vote on who comes in. What about Congress? What about legislative? Congressional vote, more important. That votes once every 2 years. The POTUS is voted on once every 4. Judicial is Supreme Court judges, and they are not elected, they're appointed. What are the 2 primary systems of the United States government? I think we should cover that.
Yes.
What is the republic and the democracy? Define republic.
where people come together and vote and pick somebody to represent them as a whole.
Define representative democracy.
Isn't that just where you elect someone to represent you in the higher up governments?
What's the difference?
It's the same thing.
But what's the difference?
Just the wording.
Semantical.
Yes.
All right, so then let's look at direct democracy then.
That's
What
where
is-
the populace votes on the direct propositions, issues.
When the people vote, that's whatever the majority rules is what becomes law, pretty much.
Basically, take out the middleman, which would be the representative.
Who are our current representatives? Our president, our vice president, congressmen, House of Representatives, and senators.
Governors, state assemblymen.
The peons. So,
Mayors.
Mayors.
definitely. So the problem with direct democracy here would be that if indeed that we deem the majority of people are stupider than you, then whatever decision that's made are basically made by a bunch of people that is stupider than you. Because at the end of the day, we do know that in a vote, only the majority of the opinions matter. Whether you like it or not, yourself personally, the majority opinions is what we'll adopt. Whatever happens, whether people are stupider than you or smarter than you are still part of this country, and your voice still matters. So that's kind of what this entire piece became. But we explored a lot more issues with this, such as what you said about legislators. It doesn't matter if you believe that you know more or they know more than you. Because at the end of the day, it's physically and mentally impossible to be full-time experts on everything. If the average voter were to be able to vote directly onto any one issue, and it's facilitated. Can you imagine how much reading it takes just to have one bill? And yet, look at what the Senate must go through to pass a bill. Can you imagine if everyday citizens were given the power to vote directly to pass or block a bill? How many of us would even have the time to read it? And how many of us have the proper education to understand what the language used in that bill and what the meaning of that bill is? And look at how many emotional people that would just initiate a knee-jerk reaction because of what a state that we were in, rather than think rationally what that does. Essentially, what Patriot Dad does is it strips away all our rights. For what? Based upon our fears. But anyway, it just the sheer amount of information full-time legislators must already sift through, is daunting. So I don't know how any one of us could possibly be able to do that. I mean, this is kind of how, this entire thing started. Originally as the e-voting, but then as we got more and more into it, we discovered that there were so many more questions for us to tackle, and how dangerous actually think of the majority of the people. I mean, like the majority of people's opinions, if we were to measure the majority of people's intelligence, what is it? Because I mean, everybody's overly opinionated, especially in this country right now. People choose belief over rational fact. And how many times do people observe anything without prior knowledge or without looking at scientific fact or historical happenings? I'm encouraging people to be more informed. That's what I'm doing. I'm encouraging people to be more rational. That's what I'm doing. Whether or not
but what good is it to be informed and rational if you don't exercise your vote?
You could be an advocate. We should actually advocate people to be advocates, to have their voices heard even more so. Well, it's easier to be more informed today than ever. I mean, can you imagine the days prior to Google and Yahoo and
social media?
Yeah, social media, Facebook. I mean, the days before that, anything that happened on the same day to be printed in any newspaper, it's just physically impossible with the system that was. But today's system, with Twitter and whatever other means, like anything that happens within 2 minutes, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Let's propose some current solutions. What should we be looking at? Hit me.
The public needs to educate itself on the issues.
How do we initiate? How do we advocate people initiate bettering themselves? Because majority of people don't want to know better. Majority of people want to watch Jersey Shore. So how do we get people that enjoys being irrational to think rationally and make rational decisions over irrational decisions? Because at the end of the day, if you're irrational, you will make impulse decisions, especially with your pocketbook, with your wallet, as well as your ballot. When you're rational, you're talking about listening to issues that matter to you, issues that drastically affect our future. You're going to demand that the questions are going to be asked more direct. You're going to demand that the issues be more transparent so you can understand them, or written in a way that you can understand them. But if you don't care, if you're going to be irrational, you don't care. So how do we get people to think rationally when we have so many diversions, distractions? How do we do that?
Try to present the facts so it's right in front of them.
Most people don't want facts because facts hurt.
Yep.
Beliefs are comfortable. To be able to make your own personal belief, to make your own personal justification of your irrational thinking, that's easy. That's comfortable.
And that's what people vote on, unfortunately.
So it's a popularity contest. We know that.
Yep.
So how do we get people to look at the real issues over just what their own belief is? Because at the end of the day, looking at belief consistently, that harms the society as a whole. We're going to continually dummy ourselves down even more. So how do we do it? Give me some solutions.
In some ways, you may have to frighten them with some of these facts so that they realize
What's
how
frightening to you
dire.
guys? What's frightening to you guys to what you just found out today? Do we have any frightening part? Or do we need to all just like
frightening-
zombies and run out there and say, go vote, go vote?
The most frightening part, honestly, is knowing that people really don't want to know the truth.
Why is that frightening?
Because we complain all the time about the lifestyle we have, about how we feel like we're being controlled. And all we do is just,
We beg to be controlled further. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, but the trade-off with that is ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. Everyone would
Yeah.
rather be ignorant.
and that's scary.
Why is that scary to you?
Because it's the majority.
Wow, good point.
What's really scary for me is laws that affect our future, our daily lives, are being decided on by politicians who are being elected by people who are not only stupider than us, but they're being irrational and making irrational choices and therefore irrational votes.
One of the most irrational that I saw was actually in our House of Representatives that's going to sit on our science board. He recently just condemned evolution and Big Bang Theory, and he is insisting on teaching creationism in our classrooms. What I don't understand is this is a government-sponsored branch that no longer adheres to separation of church and state. This guy is trying to shift definition of science. So how do laws such as being able to not bear back the devil come into play?
Irrational voters.
Here we go.
Yeah.
What else scares you?
I think what scares me is the fact that some people vote based on what they're told to do, not their own personal conclusions. You know,
Okay.
They're voting based upon their community and surroundings.
Okay, peer pressure.
Yes.
So peer pressure scares you. You know what scares me?
What?
What frightens me excruciatingly so is that I can't see what needs to be done to remedy. I don't see this remedy. That's what frightens me. And I haven't heard any one person, nor any committee or any think tank ever even propose a solution. And what frightened me even more so is that ignorance is celebrated. That's what frightens me. So what should we do to get the message across? What can we do to get people to demand that their representatives present initiatives to them more clearly, present initiatives to us that's better formatted, better worded, to where we can understand easier? What can we do to advocate a scientific approach for voters? To, in other words, learn and truly understand each issue before making a decision and casting that ballot? And what can we do to get the controllers of technology to be more transparent and also allow them for their own growth and allow us to have a seamless integration into the development of the technology? And what can we do to get voters to look at each candidate's issues of which they represent rather than what type or what spouse or what cell phone that they select? And ultimately, what can we do to get each voter to understand how important and how much it matters for them to actually cast their ballot and vote?
Making them reflect a lot on not just like, if you think most people are not as intelligent as you are, why are you letting them make decisions that affect you without casting your own vote? If you think most
I get where you're
people,
going.
you know, making them reflect and realize that voting is important, because if you don't, then you are basically just giving your
decision powers.
Your decision, I guess, your decision away to people that you already think
Are smarter
aren't
than you?
as, aren't nearly as bright as you are. I feel like once people realize that, then it'll make them be more willing to vote in a way that they feel would be the best.
And not only that, if people are going to vote, they need to educate themselves on the issues. Otherwise, why would you be voting on laws that affect you in the future and not be rational about it? If I was going to make a law or vote on a law, I would want to be as educated as possible on these laws, on these issues. So I think, yes, we need everyone to vote, to exercise their vote, but we also need them to educate themselves on the issues.
Exactly. People need to be aware of why they're voting the way they are. They need to be able to explain their opinions and give a reason for which they're voting the way they are. To encourage them to be able to explain why, so that you're not voting simply on, any random reason, that they've actually thought it through.
But I know a lot of the propositions and stuff, they're not for the average person. Sometimes you read it and you're like, I don't know what they're talking about. Why is this even a proposition? This doesn't relate to me. So maybe we just need to make it easier for people to understand who are not a politician and don't study it for their whole lives.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier, clarity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Simplify.
transparency, yeah. Because there's different levels that people can specialize in. There's doctors, and we have lawyers, then we have construction workers, and we have all these different industries. And we don't understand each other's language. I just don't know their wording. I don't know what type of mentality they have. I have a completely different mentality. So when it comes to the government, the information should be a lot more clear as to where the whole country as a unit will be able to understand and make an educated vote, where they're not completely hazed out and left out.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of these ballot measures, because it is the law, they have to present it in legalese, in legal terms. But I think on some of these ballot measures, they do try to summarize it in more friendly language. I think we just got to get people to read the ballots and to understand, think about the issues before they vote.
And then we also have the State of the Union address and all these different
The debates.
debates where the candidate or the politician has a direct communication with the citizens and the populace, Like that's where they can speak in a way that's not confusing and not way over people's heads, because they should realize that in that moment they have the people who they're representing like in their hands. They can either keep them away from the information they need to make an educated vote or push them towards it. To me, it seems that they do their best to hide them and just pull on their emotions and play them as they were puppets.
Sure, distorting the truth.
Distorting the
Facts.
truth, yeah.
Yeah.
A good way to move forward where politicians have this communication with the populace to be clear, concise, to do their best to communicate properly with the people.
Well, a lot of individuals' education level is very limited, and the reality is stupid people like to do stupid things. It's not specific to race, to age, to gender. It just, some people, I don't know, a certain percentage of them just choose to be ignorant. But then also the question is, how can we turn these guys around and wake them up and have them be more aware of issues and topics and laws that really do affect them? Because healthcare really do affect these individuals. Transportation really, truly affects them. And
Global warming effects.
yeah,
affect them.
they are affected as much as they don't want to admit it or they don't care to know it affects them directly. So, yeah, the question is, what can we do to ensure these individuals that don't want to learn, how do we wake them up to realize the truth or see the truth?
Well, issues are messy and the truth is ugly. I mean, it's a lot easier to be blissful in your ignorance and to do your thing and be blind to the other issues. I mean, it's just easier to live that way, I think. Unfortunately, that's also how they vote.
The best solutions for us to move forward with this, the end result of what we must propel in this piece would be that we want to advocate that everyone hold a representative responsible for presenting all the initiatives and ballots and referendums, whatever it is. Make language much simpler for us to understand and to mean exactly what it is that they say, especially in the way that statements and questions are formatted. That's very important. We definitely want to advocate people using a scientific approach over a belief system approach, which is you try to learn and truly understand each issue before making a decision. We should definitely hold the representatives to make them use technology to facilitate delivery of people's opinions as well as their own to us. And lastly, defining the vote, defining voting of any sort, in that voting is about understanding which candidate really shares your point of view. Which representatives are really going to do right by your own rationale, your own morality. Provided that, again, you are rational in thinking and not rational in justifying irrational thinking.
I mean, that's kind of hard because, I mean, the politicians are always flip-flopping. It's hard to know where they stand.
Well, that's kind of the point then. So they should be made a rule. You know, we have 3 strikes out in California. So let's say you flip-flop 3 times. You can't run the next election. I think Warren Buffett suggested this, which I think is a phenomenal idea. And at any given time, we get into a negative GDP. We get into a deficit.
Someone's not doing their job.
Everyone in Congress has to be reelected. They have to all be fired. House cleaning.
Not a bad idea.
I don't think it's a bad idea either. So, but at the end of the day, what the most important point of it is that we want people to be involved and we want people to definitely be rational because their vote truly matters.
The people are sovereign.
That's correct. We, the people, are sovereign.